Yo, what's up? What's up? Why I look so orange today? Why am I looking so orange? What's up, y'all? Everywhere in the world, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, wherever you guys are. Let me get this color together. There we go. What's up, y'all? What's going on? It's Mondale Robinson, Mayor of Enfield, North Carolina, and I'm super excited to be here this evening. Mainly because I started a conversation earlier on Facebook, and that conversation had a lot to do with what's going on as it pertains to the new meme that's circulating the internet. Um, the new meme that's circulating the internet. That meme has a lot to do with the fact that people are trying to blame voters who don't vote for not participating. And I was at a couple conferences today, plus, I mean, this week. Plus, I was also doing some fly-ins in DC where I was meeting with congressional members about some of the stuff that's going on in our country. And I think I need to address this once and for all so that we can understand how bad it is when we blame voters for the trash work that people who actually earn money for doing. So let me get right into it. Let me be clear about this because we need to hear this. It is not. I think sometimes we forget or we don't know. I think maybe that's what it is. We don't know. We don't know what it is to be engaged in political work because it seems strange to us. What I mean by that is a lot of the people think people just come to you and you go vote because it's a thing to do. Like, oh yeah, it's time to vote, so let's go vote. No, there's an entire apparatus. There are hundreds of organizations around this country that do nothing except for engage people on how and when to vote and who to vote for and what those issues are about. People work daily jobs. People have a lot going on in lives, and they cannot keep up with all the problems of this world when they're trying to work. And in most states, you don't even have the right to work for a livable wage. We don't even have the right to work for a livable wage. So what I'm saying is we have absolutely an obligation. These organizations like Black Male Voter Project, Black Voters Matter, BLM, there's a ton of organizations, Black Men Vote, Black Male Initiative, BMB, there's a ton of organizations that are actually out here doing this work to engage voters, not just Black men. There are tons of voters. There are the Black Women's Roundtable, 1,000 Black women. There's Higher Heights. There are tons of orgs. I can go on all day naming organizations that are around this country in every state and national orgs that actually are trying to reach voters. The problem is funding for these orgs and how often it's not showing up. And then on top of that, it's also candidates. It's the parties, it's the flaws of those candidates, it's the consultant class, it's the posters. All these people combined collectively are a part of an ecosystem that is a billion-dollar ecosystem to turn out voters. And what we would never say is we don't blame people for not participating in anything except for voting. Well, people are like, well, voting is different because your life depends on it. People going to work, and that's what their life depends on. So the idea that regular people who are working to pay bills are lazy or don't really care about what happens to them or are giving people permission to exploit them is absolutely incorrect. That is not, some people don't care about voting. Some people don't vote because they don't care. But the overall majority of people who are not participating in elections is tied to the fact that these people are living on the margins. These people don't have their means met. So when we say out loud, well, when you don't vote, you don't care, or you're voting for the person that wins, that is absolutely not true. That is absolutely not true. Especially when politicians get elected and then don't do what they told voters they were going to do. Especially when political parties don't show up when there's no election on the ballot to address the problems that people are suffering through. How are we comfortable blaming people when they don't see candidates until it's 2 months before an election? They'll spend 80% they being candidates in the political parties. You see it every election cycle. It's millions and millions of ads all over TV, over and over, back to back to back to back. Spending money on ad, but not spending money on people. Not coming to community to figure out really what's going on. They're waiting on some poll told them to say this about these people, and that's going to motivate them to vote. What you're seeing is a rejection of those tactics. When people don't show up to the polls, it's a rejection of the idea that you can say something on TV or you can mail me something thinking that it's going to motivate me when you don't have a relationship with me. When there's no relationship between candidate, party, and people, then you cannot expect people to vote for you. I almost want to go a step further and say, I want to go a step further and say that it is illogical to think that you have the right to ask someone for their vote when you don't even know these people. The only thing you know about them is they are registered because it's public information. Some states let you know what party they're registered to. That too is public information. You might know their age and who else live in their household, but you don't know that person to ask them for their vote. You've not done anything to make their life easier. And that's why we're seeing this 89 million people not participating. I want to go a step further, though, because people are actually laying into Black people, specifically Black men, about not participating in the voting. And they want to act as if there's some kind of significant drop-off that changed the outcome of the election. If money does not matter, if money does not motivate voters to vote for people, then why did the candidates raise over $1 billion in 100 days? Why did that money get spent? If money does not win elections, if money does not help win elections, then why are we spending money to reach people? Why are we getting emails from candidates in the Democratic Party almost every day, every 5 and 10 minutes about how important it is to help raise money so that they can reach more voters? I am saying the tactics that they are using are tacit at best, racist on one end. I mean, we have candidates in the party and consultants still phone calling people. Voters don't want to talk to you on the phone. People don't want to talk to nobody on the phone, let alone some candidate or some recording of a candidate about why it's important and why they're the best thing since sliced bread. We have to be honest about this. This is not a simple situation where we are talking to people about their lives, about what they're suffering through. We're not telling people that we are here to address what they're suffering through. And what I mean by telling them, I'm not talking about in your words, I'm talking about in your actions. You tell people you're trying to address their problems, not by what you're going to say to them. You tell them by your actions. There's no actions from candidates that say that they are going to address the lived experience, especially for Black men. You can't tell me that there is when we are still suffering from things that we've been suffering from for generations. Black men are still overrepresented in every negative indicator of social life in this country. Yet they'll be blamed for not voting. All of the things that Black men suffer from are political issues. Candidates must do better to reach Black men. Consultants must do better to speak on behalf of Black men. You cannot just pull out a famous Black man and think that's going to turn Black men out. Hillary Clinton tried that with Jay-Z. That's not a successful model. That method will not work. It will not work. It will not work. It cannot work. The world is not set up that way anymore. The information is too democratized. What people like, what people are doing with their times, who they trust, it's not known to you all. There's no Walter Cronkite environment anymore where people watch one channel at 9 o'clock and that's it. People are getting their news from anywhere and everywhere. And you better believe that political parties in Washington, D.C., in Raleigh, or any state capital aren't speaking on behalf of regular people. Regular Americans are suffering because of politicians. They're not speaking to politicians about their issues because they're not showing up when they need to be or where they need to be. Those are facts. So I needed to say that. I wanted to say that because I'm tired. Like Benjamin Crump shared a meme, and I've heard it a few times. And we need to not let this become a thing. I said the same thing about the NAACP when I heard D.L. Hughley say that Black men that These young black boys going to college in the SEC states need to boycott. I said we need to nip this in the bud before it become a thing. And then the NAACP took all of its weight and might and start trying to make it a national boycott, putting pressure on these young boys. Good thing it didn't go anywhere. It didn't take off because young boys were not feeling it because it was ridiculous. We need to nip this in the bud right now before we go into November when we need black men to show up. And we'd be the turn black men off because we are criticizing them for something that is no different than any other demographic if they were living through what black men are living through. What I'm saying is for those people who are doing the work to engage black men around the electoral process, for those of us who understand what community organizing is beyond what Barack Obama, what people believe Barack Obama was, for those of us who spend years mastering how to engage voters so as to increase their participation in electoral politics. For those of us who have relationships and credibility with these people, you all are making our work harder. You may think you are doing good or you may mean well, but you are actually making our lives that much more complicated. To organize black men in the face of the things that are being said about black men becomes damn near impossible. You all are making the climate more toxic to bring brothers into. So we're not even asking for special treatment at this point for black men. We're just asking you all to stop talking at brothers about shit that you are not completely understanding. And I'm talking about the electoral process. We should never confuse the fact that you are a super voter. And a super voter, for people who don't know, is someone who votes in every election. That does not mean that you are a practitioner of the work to engage brothers. There's training that goes into this work. You need to know what a one-on-one is. You need to know the purpose of a one-on-one. You need to have run a one-on-one to engage people. You need to know what it means to gather community and listen and build strategy around their concerns before you start speaking on what it takes to move people. And if you're not doing that, if you're not committed to that, that does not mean you don't have a say. It just means that your say should not be about this demographic or this work. Why is it bad? Why is it bad that we now need to listen to experts? Just because you have a camera like I'm looking at and a light, we need to get back to the time where it's tasteful to listen to people that know what the hell they're talking about. You don't go to your doctor for your annual checkup and say, listen, I've been doing this for 47 years now. I feel like I'm equipped to tell other people what's going on with their health. That's not what you say. You just say, I'm a healthy person because I go get checked up and I'm living right. That's one thing. To live right is one thing, but to understand the practice of medicine, and in this case, the medicine is politics, to understand the practice of politics and not even politics. Because I know a lot of people watch 24/7 TV and swear what they hear on TV is correct. I deal with it in my family. I argue with people who watch TV all the time, and they think what they hear is the fact. But the people that you see on TV are pundits. Most of them are journalists, and there's nothing wrong with journalists. Nothing. But they are not practitioners of electoral work. Don Lemon has never ran a campaign in his life. I would argue that Don Lemon don't know what a win number is or how to get a win number. And I would say he's not alone. Majority of people in those spaces don't know what a win number is or how to get a win number or how to count, how to say what it costs to knock on a door, how to write a script to write on a door, how to cut turf to go to door so that people are walking the average of 60 doors, which people don't even know where did that average come from? How do you come up with that information? All of this goes into what it takes to run a field program to engage voters in a way that you can actually reach people and show up in a way that is not transactional. We got to stop sharing memes just because someone famous shared that meme. We got to stop saying we got to say stuff just because somebody famous said something. Benjamin Crump is powerful in the courtroom. And when he says something legally, we probably should listen to it. But Benjamin Crump ain't ran nobody campaign. I'm sorry, not Barack Obama. LeBron James, what do they call him? Lebanon James is an amazing power forward or point forward or whatever position he is. in the game of basketball. He seems to be an amazing dad, amazing husband. He is not an amazing politician or person to follow political advice from. Jay-Z, same thing applies. An amazing businessman and musician, so it seems. He knows nothing about electoral work. He believes his presence is enough. He said that out of his own mouth. And anybody that is worth $1 billion believing that their presence is enough when people are starving. Jay-Z has enough money to spend $1 million 1,000 times and still be rich. And he believes his presence is enough for people who can't even pay their light bill. That is the disconnect. It is fine to listen to your favorite musician. It is fine to love your favorite basketball player, but love those people for those professions. Stay out of there. Keep them out of your politics because it sets us back. It is why we are here now. It is how we got to this moment. We have fantasized about influencers who have no sense of politic. We are still quoting Martin Luther King and Malcolm X as if that's going to convince young black men to go to the poll when these brothers are struggling through Jim Crow 2.0. The quotes of the 60s are fine for grounding your work, but they are not going to motivate the men that are living in 2026 America, not the black ones, not the ones that are on the margins. So if you're just posting to post, that's fine. If you're just commenting to commenting, that's fine. But don't offer it as if it's political strategy. But don't argue with someone who actually does this for a living. It's fine to have an opinion, but your opinion can't go against fact. It is a fact that transactional shit like sending, we know how ineffective ads are. We being the people that do this work. It is the least effective way of turning out voters. We see the studies after every election cycle. It is the least effective way to turn out voters. Yet and still, politicians and consultants and pollsters insist that candidates should suspend majority of their budget running ads. Why is that? Because it's the easiest thing to do. And it also makes the most money for the consultants. Because every point that they buy, meaning every time you see that ad, they also get paid. That does not change the fact that it's not effective for turning out our voters. Mail is the next least effective. Calling people is least effective. Yet we do all of those things more than we do what we need to do. Be in community and of community. Not only do they get paid regardless, Pinkerbell, not only do they get paid if they win or lose, guess what? They also get called for the next campaign. These people's winning strategy or number is absolutely nothing. Yet and still, they still get paid and hired again and again and again. That is the nepotism that's killing our community. People care more about their friendships getting contracts than their neighborhoods or their communities or communities that they should be looking out for getting equity. And that's how we wind up with candidates who are not loyal to the base that send them to the office. Because they don't need to be, because so little people have enough money to buy them that they only pay attention to those and the desires of those who are listening to them, who are paying for them, who are paying for them. Who are paying for them. Listen, Pinkerbell. I'm gonna get back to my comments, but I want to address this because I'm from Enfield, North Carolina. Enfield, North Carolina used to be a swamp, Huckleberry Swamp. I love swamps. So when people say drain the swamp or the swamp, they think about swamp in nasty context. I always want to correct it. Nerd in me irks. That nerd in me goes crazy about that. So let me say what I mean by that. Actually, it's not very swampy because swamps are actually some of the cleanest places on the planet. The swamps are so They have this natural cleaning process where they clean themselves, right? When people say drain the swamp, draining the swamp would ruin the entire ecosystem for us because that's the role that swamps play. They have this natural. Sometimes you see this thing about swamp gas where that gas, that fireball or something you see floating off the swamps. That is actually the swamps cleaning themselves. Our politics is not swampy at all. Our politics are just like dirty bathwater. We need to drain the dirty bathwater. Our politics is like the ring around the tub when people just let dirty shit just sit in the tub and don't do anything about it. That's what our politics is. We have a dirty bathtub. I wish our politics was more swampy because it would clean itself. We can make our politics more swampy if we took the money out of it. We can make our politics more swampy if we engage people more as a mutual aid organizations versus coming to them 2 months before an election. If we address the problems that people are suffering through, we could get more of them involved in our politics. Y'all give me 1 second. I need to go do something with my wife. Please, please, please don't go away. Please don't go away. Give me 2-3 minutes max. All right. I'll be right back. Don't go nowhere. Sorry, guys. Sorry about that. I had to do some stuff with my wife. Anyway, I'm back. What I was saying was we end up where we are right now when our politics is about personalities. Think about this. When our politics are about personalities and not policies. How did we become the people who created the blueprint how to get more for people that were excluded? How did Black people who fought so hard to be seen as equal become a people who only cared about representation if it looked like us, not because it was delivering for us? In this moment, we need to have an immature politics that say, you cannot just look like us, you have to be for us. Your policies have to be for us. I'm going to take up this moment right now to say, if you're watching, please share, please like, subscribe, and make sure you guys are interacting. Even though I don't respond immediately to the comments, I'm definitely going to get to them, but it's also a way for us to jack up the algorithm, an algorithm that we know is racist and don't like to promote Black content. So it's our job to ensure that we are putting in front of our people more than that, which is the baddies or housewives or any other junk that further pushes us away from a conscience that let us see the humanity in Blackness. So please, if you're watching, make sure you share, like, subscribe, and also interact with me. Again, we are in a moment that is so dangerous, y'all. Let me give you some examples right now. In North Carolina, over this past week or so, we've been seeing serious attacks from our Republican elected officials in Raleigh that are matching, or if not superseding, what's happening at the federal level. A couple weeks ago, not even a couple weeks now, a little over a week, Republicans created this bill that was going to, that they are seriously trying to strip access to the ballot for so many people. In this bill, it will prevent any Board of Election official for telling people to go vote. Just saying go vote, not who to vote for, just saying go to vote, will become illegal. Think about that. Everybody in our state, everybody in our country should be telling everybody to go vote. People who work for the Board of Elections should definitely be telling people to go vote. They're trying to prevent that from happening. They're trying to prevent more people from having access to the ballot. So if you didn't vote last election or the election before that, they're trying to wipe you off the ballot. They're trying to make it harder for people to stay on the ballot by using Donald Trump's national registry to verify your names. And if you're not up there, if it says you're not a citizen, then they take you off. Not to mention how many names are so similar and can cause people to be wiped off the ballot. My first name is William. My last name is Robinson. Do you know how many William Robinsons there are in the damn world, in the country, in the state? We are playing a game with the democracy, or what was a democracy, that is scary. Republicans are not only redrawing districts, people are talking about redrawing districts. That ain't all they're doing. They're eliminating the power of people to motivate people to vote, to participate. The rules they're putting around petitions, getting signatures, the rules they're putting around voter registration. They are criminalizing noise at the poll. If someone calls the police and say you're being disruptive, now it is a misdemeanor at the polls in North Carolina. That's what they're trying to do. That's what they're trying to do. But they didn't just stop there. They didn't just stop there. Today, Republicans overrode 3 vetoes. 3 bills that Josh Stein had vetoed got overridden today. And people ain't paying attention. So all of you people that said, oh, these parties are the same. These parties are the same. We are watching a Democratic elected governor. That's a big D, Democratic, and also small d in process. Josh Stein overrode, he vetoed Senate Bill 153, which is called the North Carolina Border Patrol Act. First of all, we don't border any outside country at all. We are deeply in the middle, in the middle of the East Coast. There ain't no country near us. We don't need a Border Protection Act. We are part of the interstate compact called the United States Constitution. What Border Protection Act do we need? But anyway, Republicans wrote a Border Protection Act which made it illegal for states, law enforcement, county sheriffs not to participate and help ICE. So if they gave ICE your name, or if they said, oh, your name, you're not a citizen, they gave ICE your name and said they had some confusion with your status, and ICE made a mistake like they do and deport you because, oh, you ain't got no status, but you really have status, it was just a mistake. Or was it a mistake? You can be deported because now it is mandated. It is mandated under the Senate Bill 153 that was so horribly written that it says that towns in North Carolina, cities in North Carolina are no longer protected from lawsuit if you are a sanctuary city. If a person without status, they said illegal, if a person without status commits a crime in a city, they're saying that the city can be held liable. This is a slippery slope. If that is the case, then can the city be held accountable for a citizen being in that town because they didn't ban that citizen from being in that town? This is what Republicans are doing right now by overriding this veto. I'm gonna get to how they were successful, but let me tell you what else they did. Senate Bill 227. Senate Bill 227 made it illegal for any teacher and anybody that works in the public school system to do or say anything about diversity, equity, and inclusion. The bill went so far as it says teachers can't even take up radical ideas like talking about people should be accountable for people of their same race actions if it happened before them. Basically saying you can't hurt white kids' feelings by talking about slavery and what role white supremacy still play. You cannot talk about white supremacy and its role in where Black people find themselves right now. That's happening right now in the United States, in North Carolina. That it is no longer a bill because they overrode the veto, which means now it is law. DEI cannot be mentioned in the public schools of North Carolina. That happened today. Why is that not national media? DEI today died in schools in North Carolina. Mind you, we just had a lawsuit that made it to the Supreme Court about Halifax school districts in my lifetime. Because the Supreme Court said the state of North Carolina was not providing the majority Black school district in Halifax with adequate resources to say that those kids had a fair and equal education to white students in the state. But now you can't talk about that. Wait, that ain't all they did. Because Senate Bill 558 also made it illegal to talk about DEI in higher education. Not just talk about it. You can't consider anybody's race, gender, or any protected class. Not in conversations, not in how you allow students to come to school, how they are accepted to the programs, it is gone. It is gone. So when people say, oh, we want equal chances, equal is not equity. Equal is not equity. If you give black people equal opportunity as you give white people right now for the rest of our lives, that will not make up for all of the 400 years of inequity that they've had. We do not need to be talking about equal. We need to be talking about equity. They need to make up for what they did and are doing to black lives in this country. That is a clear statement. And they know that. They understand that. That's why DEI is under attack. That's why it's so dastardly when black people do the bidding for Republicans. The bidding for Republicans. Black people doing the bidding for Republicans. Let me tell you how salty the establishment is. Not just in North Carolina, but everywhere. We just watched DeRosa, a consultant who worked for Cuomo. Imagine being a woman of color working for Cuomo as a consultant, coming out of your mouth saying that the people in New York that were endorsed by Mondale are parasites because they beat incumbents. Mind you, these are Democrats participating in the Democratic primary. She just called them parasites because they beat the establishment candidates because they are progressive. Think about that. Cuomo was the governor. Y'all might remember this, but he was too touchy-feely with women. You might remember that. Sexual harassment was the reason he was kicked out of office. And she has the audacity to call these people parasitic because they beat the establishment. This is what happens when the consultant class and the status quo is challenged. I'm telling y'all, we need to keep it moving. Now, let me bring it home. In North Carolina, today, none of those vetoes would have been allowed, would have been possible if Shelley Willingham or Carla Cunningham would have voted. These are two Democrats, well, they were two Democrats. And they are upset. Upset. Because these are black Democrats that are upset that they lost their primary. Carla in Mecklenburg County and Shelley Willingham in Edgecombe County, which is a majority black county right next to Halifax County. Both of them were in the legislature today. Both of them were in meetings today. But when it came time to stand up to the veto or the override of this veto, neither one of them showed up. Republicans gave them something sweet. What's in it for them, Mondale? Let me tell you. Both of them lost their primaries, so they know they're not coming back. So they salty. So much so that Carla changed her party to unaffiliated. And the Republicans gave them cover and said, well, you don't have to vote with us if you two don't show up, or one of you, if neither of you show up, because we only needed one of them. If neither of you show up, you don't even have to vote. You just don't be here. So Shelby left the building, but Carla didn't leave the building. She hid in her office and locked the door. And when representatives was reaching out to her, people that were being friends, people that had been friends to her, even when other people were angry at her for voting with the reason you lost is because you voted with the override last year. Are you listening to me? These are black people. Salty because they lost the primary, because they participated and helped out Republicans. Now they got some kind of sweetheart deal on their way out, setting up or destroying black wealth or the opportunity of black wealth more. What do you mean about black wealth? Well, because something else the House voted on and passed today, but it didn't become law yet because it got to go to the Senate, but it's damn sure going to pass when it gets to the Senate because Republicans control that House too. They voted on House Bill 171, y'all. And House Bill 71 is worse or equal to taking DEI out of school both at the primary level and the higher education level. You want to know why? Because it takes it out of all government agencies. Yeah. DEI, any DEI office in Josh Stein's administration has to be terminated once House Bill 171 becomes law. Once they override this veto. And Shelley, you disgustingly black elected official from Edgecombe County, a majority black county, selfishly, he just allowed this to happen. And guess what they took it out of? And guess what they explicitly say in there? Contracts. We already are not getting enough contracts as black contractors for the state. Now race cannot be considered at all. Any DEI policy has to be gone. And they didn't just say the policies. If you get found out by the Republican state auditor that you participated in some kind of, and we know Republicans have this purchase to lie, they will lie. Donald Trump lying about the election results. So what now? Now what we know is this Republican state auditor has the right to audit your department. And if they say that you or somebody in the department use equity or diversity or inclusion to make a hiring decision or any type of decision, gave somebody a contract because of that. So say some white boy don't get a contract and you give it to a person of color. And that white person challenge it. And then the auditor sees it because they're friends with the white person. It is not only the law that you get fired. It is the law that you also can be in court. You can be brought to court. That's what 171 says. They are not just saying we're going to do away with DEI in a damn nation that prides itself on being diverse. We're not a homogenous nation. We are a nation of people, different people. It said, send us your mortal asses. What kind of melting pot charges people for being a part of the melting? America. They're not just trying to do away with DEI. They're criminalizing being black again. We are in 2026 and dealing with black codes. Donald Trump is fighting. There was a bipartisan bill passed both houses of Congress and was supposed to be signed by the president today. But because they would not act on his SAVE Act, and that SAVE Act don't save nobody except for Donald Trump and racist people who are trying to hold on to power even when they don't win. He canceled it. The bipartisan act today was about affordable housing. This man did not show up to sign that bill. So much so that you had Senator Cassidy, a staunch Republican from the South, cussing out Donald Trump, refusing to call him president. A bipartisan bill about, listen to me, about affordability, about affordable housing was about to become federal law. And your president wouldn't show up. Now think about all of this in the context of how I started this conversation. Think about all of this. Shelley Willingham, black man from Edgecombe County, Democrat. Carla Cunningham, black woman, Mecklenburg County. Lose their primaries, get upset, and cut a deal with Republicans to screw over black people with DEI in public school and college, and also government contracts and any government agency on their way out of office. Not to mention they lost their primaries because they were already working with Republicans for their benefit. Consider that. Consider the consultant that worked for Cuomo calling out progressive people who are trying to fight for what Mondale is doing in New York to continue that at the congressional level, at the federal level. All the things that they said couldn't happen that already happened. Consider that. Consider that people are starving. Consider that North Carolina's minimum wage is still around $7.50 per hour. Consider that our people don't have a right to unionize. Consider that we don't. Consider that we don't pay a livable wage to our teachers and we overwork them and don't get them enough resources to educate our kids. Consider all of that and then tell me you still comfortable talking bad about the people who don't show up to vote when all of those issues affect their lives daily. Yet they see a trillionaire. They see a trillionaire and they can't make $7.50 an hour. They're being blamed for the problems of this nation when the hoarding of wealth is going further and further to a small group of people because of exploitive policies that tax income more than it does other types of monies. When the only trillionaire in the history of humans, only customer is your government that is paid for by your tax dollars, while you can't make sure your mother has the health care and also medicine that she needs. And you don't think people should be pissed off, frustrated with that system? It is not logical to believe that people will participate in a system that treats them this way. We are asking people to be in an abusive relationship with the electoral process when we demand higher turnout, but we don't demand anything from our politicians. We should back off blaming people and letting politicians and consultants who continue to hire and ensure that their friends got jobs off the hook. These people get off the hook and get rehired over and over. If you were a consultant in any other industry and you went to those people and said, I've not succeeded at anything in the last 20 years, but you should hire me at premium rate, you would get laughed out of the damn office. But not in politics. These people can lose an election every cycle and keep going up and up in just because they've been around. They keep getting different contracts, higher contracts. How is that possible? What industry does that work in other than politics? Why are we so cool with this being our reality? How are we allowing these people to drive the conversation simply because they got a check beside their name on someone's website that don't even give a damn about your blackness anyway? Elon Musk algorithm is racist. Not because it was built that way, but because he went back and redesigned it that way. Zuckerberg's algorithm is racist. Yet these people aren't blamed for a damn thing, but poor people are. When are we going to move past this idea that poor people are responsible for what they're suffering through? When do we hold people accountable? When do we hold big money accountable? Money by politicians. They are at fault. What is our strategy? If you got this much money, $1 billion was spent in the last presidential election from one candidate. That is not to count what the outside groups, what the entity or other entities spent. That is just from the candidate. And none of those resources went to feeding people, clothing people, housing people, employing people permanently. How can you raise $1 billion for an election in less than 100 days or around 100 days with no infrastructure built to address chronic problems throughout our community. Uh, I talked to JR a couple of times, Daniel. It's good seeing you. I talked to JR a couple of times. I talked to John, I think, a couple of times as well, maybe once. I hope those brothers are doing well. I know JR moved to uh, move from California to somewhere else. But I've been super busy trying to. I miss those guys. And Daniel, I appreciate you asking that question. The long answer is I need to do better and stay in touch with them because those are great people and good progressives, and we definitely need their voices in this fight. But I think the truth is, no, I don't do a good job of doing that. Um, Listen, y'all, I need y'all to understand that we are in a moment. We are in a moment that we can allow the status quo maintain itself, or we could do something extremely big. Everybody in North Carolina, that especially if you're in Eastern North Carolina, if you are anywhere and you see Shelley Willingham, you should just look at him and scream shame. Or you should make sure that he knows that his actions were disgusting. It shouldn't in any organization operating in Eastern North Carolina. If your mission is to better the quality of life of Black people, Shelley should not be invited ever. Shelley should not be a part of your organization if you care about Black people, because he showed us money matters to him more than we do. It is illogical for people to think that there's no ramification for selling us out in this manner. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. Shelley Willingham, Edgecombe County, Carla Cunningham, people in Mecklenburg, if you see her, when you see her, she should not be allowed to be a part of your institutions. If she is one of your Greek, if she's in a Greek organization that you belong to, you should be disgusted if she shows up. It should not be okay for those people to pretend that they get to live life as normal when they've done so much harm with this last act of not showing up intentionally, because both of them were there today. And Carla locked herself in her office and Shelley ran his punk ass out of the building. You guys are cowards. We need to demand more of these people. They owed us. They owed us so much more. Edgecombe County should be further along than it is. 12 years, Shelley, you've been going back and forth to Raleigh on behalf of these people, and we see why they didn't get what they needed. You were there for you. You were there for you. You were doing the bidding of white supremacy. You left office the way you came in. It is absolutely disgusting. And it's time in this moment that we call out all of these politicians who are showing up in this manner. I don't need to hear about Republicans and what they're doing in any state house if Democrats ain't doing what they're supposed to be doing. When you got Black people acting like Shelley Willingham and Carla Cunningham, that's a bigger problem. Elected by people that look like us to do the bidding for us, yet you get there and do the bidding for you. Dastardly behavior. People, and me calling them out and me continuing to say their name has less to do with them than it does with anybody else that's going to plan to win office as a Democrat and represent Black people and think you're going to get in there and not get called out. You should know before you take office, before you take the oath in November or January or December or any time after any election going forward, there's going to be problems. And you're going to be forced to answer them. You're going to be forced to answer them. What's going on, Catch My Whiff? You're going to be forced to answer them. You're going to have to answer Letitia James, you tonight are forced to answer. Why do you think it's okay to say what you said about progressives? What you said about progressives? What you said about Mondale? You need to answer those questions. What you said about those candidates that just won the primary. You need to answer those questions. Nobody's getting a pass anymore. Hakeem Jeffries, you need to get your Democrats in order. You need to get your consult. If it was okay for the Democratic Party to offer a blacklist of any consultants who worked against incumbents, they need to offer a blacklist against any consultants who call winning Democrats parasites simply because they defeated somebody in the primary. The CBC needs to stand for something more than a big ass party in October. Fight like hell. Fight like hell. You owe it to the people to fight like hell. Winning or losing is part of it, but fighting is more important. Fighting is more important. Bullies unchecked continue to bully. But what I'm seeing is red and blue really does make green. Red and blue really does make green. And it seems like you all, both parties, are dead set on who can get the most money, not to do the most good for the most people, but who so that you can maintain your status. And that's dastardly to me. That's absolutely dastardly to me. You ain't hearing no national press about any of these overrides, these vetoes that just made blackness almost illegal in North Carolina. You can't talk about our history anymore in public schools and public colleges, and you can't think about DEI at the state agencies. Not only will you get fired, but you can find yourself in court. This is what happened when you have weak leadership. Shout out to Representative Reeves, the leader, for doing what he was, the minority leader, for trying to do what he was trying to do. We saw you fighting. We heard you. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. But we need to get serious real quick. We need a mature answer to our politics, and it does not need to be based on proximity or people inviting you to nice dinners. We need to start demanding something. We need to demand the party at the state level, at the county level, at the national level can no longer speak for us. We need to speak for our damn self, and we need to do it with crystal light clarity. We are owed good leadership, Ray. We don't just need it. We are owed good leadership. We put in too much. We've given too much to have bullshit or good leadership. We need great leadership. We are owed that. This watered down version of Democrat is not going to do it in this moment. And we've seen Republicans show you that they are willing to do anything for bad. When we get back in power, we need to be willing to do everything for good, with or without them, changing rules just like they're doing, but we need to do it for the betterment of people. When we're back in power, when we're back in power, filibuster need to be gone. Electoral college, expansion of the Supreme Court. DC need to be a state. Y'all need to, I'm telling you, This is the moment. This is it right now. This is it. Time out for all these stupid motherfuckers on the internet. Excuse my language, but don't excuse my language because I mean it. That are out here saying shit that is not grounded in facts, that is causing harm to our community, that's preventing us from being able to reach more of us to bring us into the electoral fold. Shout out to anybody who's organizing their community, trying to organize, trying to learn how to organize, trying to activate in any way possible in a way that is meant to be. And I'd be damned if I'm comfortable shaking hands and taking pictures with politicians just because they got a D beside their name if they're doing harm to my people. And we should all say, keep your picture and give me policies. Give me a reason to smile. Keep your picture and give me some dental insurance to pay for my teeth and my kids' teeth. Give me some health insurance so I look better in the picture. Give me the ability to earn more money so I can pay for a better camera for the picture. These politicians want to show up and take pictures. Show up with policies that feed people. Or stay your ass at home. I'm Mondale Robinson. It's been real. Y'all be great.